engineers produce their Xboxes and their fridges and their bicycles and their tennis rackets. Well, I picked on the remote networking activity because I hoped that it would mean that I could do more in the same time.
No, I like that idea. Say if they can't get to us, it's a good idea to just talk over the internet.
I hope that some of my enthusiasm will rub off on you.
I'd like to think some of the students will take up engineering as a full-time career. My name's Mike Baldwin. I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm currently working for the National Nuclear Laboratory. I got involved in the STEM work through the Institution of Mechanical Engineers. About 3 or 4 years ago, they put out some information about the Bloodhound project. It's a car that's going to do 1,000 miles an hour. Nobody's ever built one before. That particular project caught my imagination and I made some inquiries and said that I was interested in doing that. Since then, I've probably done half a dozen different activities, some associated with Bloodhound and some just associated with sort of general engineering subjects and my career. Can you take it down so we can see the jaws enter the liner? I'm concerned that I make sure that the session is interesting for the students. Something's got to catch their attention. It's really got to grab them. Hi Peter, you alright now?
Yeah, I'm right as rain now, Mike.
Right, good, okay. Just a couple of things I wanted to check with you. I generally, when I want to plan the activity, I try and speak to the teacher or the teachers involved first. As much as anything, to find out what they want to get out of it, because at the end of the day we're providing, I'll call it a service to the teacher rather than us telling the teacher what they've got to have.
I think if you look at the timings and aim for about 30 minutes, anything more than that, I just think, I know them, one or two of them will get restless.
Yeah, no, that's fine. This is what I need, because at the end of the day, there's no point in me doing what I want if it doesn't satisfy what the group wants, and that's the whole point about doing it. At the pre-event meeting, I will discuss with the teacher the size of the class, obviously the age group, and also what the students already know about the subject, because obviously if they've spent some time in class talking about particular areas, then it's much more worthwhile. If they've had some exposure to engineering in some form or other, then obviously that does help.
Although they're a slightly smaller group, they're a little more lively, shall we say.
Yes, right.
You need a good working relationship with your STEM ambassador. And it's remarkable how quickly that can be established. You know, after a few emails and a couple of telephone conversations, I feel as though, it's really strange, I feel as though I know Mike and I've never actually met him in the flesh. So yeah, it's useful.
Getting in touch with the teachers is sometimes a little bit difficult because obviously for the bulk of their working day, I sort of around about 8:30 through till 3 o'clock, they're very fully committed to their teaching requirements. So emails does help. And obviously telephone calls. But I have to say that a lot of the communication is by email, certainly in the early stages. Do you want to spend a little bit of time just getting this camera set up now so that I can see the group?
I think that was really valuable last time because I knew where I had to position these kids. What we're using here is the staff room. This is the room we're going to be using on the day.
Right, and you're going to do that? I think the important things to check when you're working on the remote networking basis is firstly to have had contact using the technology with the teacher in the environment they're going to do the presentation in. They need to be able to get the classroom set up so that you can see all the students and obviously the students can see you. In terms of sound, that can be very poor if you haven't got the right sort of microphone and the microphone in the right sort of place. For the activity, what I'm expecting to do is to do a short presentation explaining how wide a range of things that we have in everyday life are all associated with engineering. I'm then going to expect to move on to looking at some basic engineering processes, such as perhaps turning and metal forming, and showing the students the work that they've currently done in class, how that actually gets done in a manufacturing company. That's my plan.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Mike Baldwin. I'm going to do a presentation for you this morning. I've entitled it Engineering as a Career and a Passion.
Well, I picked on the remote networking activity because I hoped that it would mean that I could do more in the same time. We get requests from a large geographical area with the STEM based in Manchester, and as a result, because of traffic conditions and so forth in the area, it can often take us a long time to travel to and from the event. So I felt that this was a way of making more delivery with the same amount of time.
You can see a wide range of equipment that engineers are involved in.
I've got a presentation which I do tend to tailor depending on what the teacher wants. To make sure that I've got the timing right, I need to practice it. Obviously, things like videos, it's very easy because you've got the time on the video there. But you've also obviously got to allow a decent amount of time for questions and answers. What is different about this one is that the students have been working with the teacher to do some very basic engineering styles of activity within the school, so the sort of limitations of the equipment that they've got. What I'm looking forward to is trying to take that information that they've currently got and help them understand how that then gets applied practically in the workplace of manufacturing companies.
Okay, so can we have a look at our coat hook that we made?
Yeah.
So here's going to talk us through what he did.
Right, well, we made this. It's a coat hook and it's made of mild steel. What we did first is we got a bar of mild steel and we cut 4 pieces like 2 sides.
Could you explain to me how we bent the hook?
We just put it in the file and then we just hammered it.
Put it in the what?
Oh yeah, the vice.
Put it in the vice and
We just hammered it.
hammered it. Right, so that's how we've done it, Mike.
Okay.
In these virtual sessions, the teacher does provide a good link between you and the students. Often, if you don't quite catch what the question is, he can repeat it, or he can pick up on something that or sense what they want to say and encourage them to ask questions. For me, just to sit in front of the screen and for them to look at me isn't necessarily something that's going to generate the question, whereas he can probably give them a steer on the sort of things that they might want to ask.
I think what I'm able to do is gauge students' reactions to the work that he's done and the presentations that he does. And although they're really polite and would never dream of offending anybody, so they say, that was really interesting, thanks very much. Sometimes you can tell by the look on their faces that like some activities and some presentations are more interesting and more geared to what they enjoy and like themselves. And I tend to steer Mike towards those and perhaps away from the ones that they find a little bit drier perhaps.
What we've got here, guys, is a picture of a standard basic lathe.
The thing I would say with remote working is when you actually do presentations, I suspect it can be a little disconcerting because you have to share your screen with the students, and as a result they lose sight of you. They only see your presentation and hear your voice. So from that point of view, that's again not as good as if you were doing the presentation stood in front of them.
All that remains to do now, Mike, is to say thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very welcome.
Quick round of applause for the engineer. Thanks again from me, Mike, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Okay, thanks very much.
I thought the students were engaged with the ambassador. There were 1 or 2 technical faults. It's always a good idea to do a check, and we did do a check, and it worked beautifully last Friday, but such is the nature of the work that we do, it didn't work as well today. But that's life, isn't it? That's what happens sometimes.
Well, it went fine and I really enjoyed it and it gave me loads of ideas and yeah, I might become a mechanical engineer too.
It was in detail, and he gave us good information about how he uses the products and how he builds the products and how we can improve our work.
The important thing I think about the STEM activities is that you have got to build a relationship, albeit perhaps quite short term, with the teacher. And they see it a means of expanding the students' experience, making lessons more interesting. And I think that what the students get out of it is actually being able to talk to people who aren't necessarily just on the teaching staff.